I just come off of doing a nearly 2 hour long video. I didn't think I was going to have to do another one. This one is going to be a more angry one. The NHS is special for us in Britain. It really is. I think we as a people have forgotten what the NHS really means to us. I'm not fucking kidding. Now, I was on Discord earlier streaming James O'Brien. I came off it a bit early because I wanted to do my earlier video. But I was just listening to. I wasn't planning on doing another. But this is like. I'm one of the things that makes me proud to be British. Is the NHS. And this is what it's been turned into.
And there was a patient who was covered in swastikas, and he would refuse to speak to me, whereas he would speak to all the white doctors and nurses. And when
did he say so? Did he say I refuse to speak to that doctor?
No, he just wouldn't. When I was asking him questions or trying to provide the care that he needed. And then I think the most thing that stood out to me was I was sharing this with one of my white colleagues.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, maybe he's having a bad day. He's
not having a bad day. He's a fucking Nazi. He's got swastikas tattooed all over him. Now, yes, as a pagan, I get that symbol isn't necessarily Nazi. But this guy is a Nazi. By this description she's saying, this guy is a Nazi. You can't just say he's having a bad day. Fucking pathetic.
He's a nice guy, but maybe he's having a bad day. And for me, that was kind of worse than...
and he was covered in swastika tattoos. Yeah. That's a lot of bad days, isn't it? They take a while.
That's disgusting.
Then, since then, basically, I lost confidence in even sharing these incidents, which there's many of, and you face them not only from patients, but also from, your fellow colleagues, which is very disappointing. And you just feel that you just have to keep it to yourself, basically, and carry on.
Do you think they don't notice? Or they I mean, I'm not making excuses for them, but they don't want to notice?
I think it's more a case of it makes them uncomfortable to discuss these issues.
Yes.
So they kind of try to, in the kind of process of making themselves comfortable, they make you even more uncomfortable.
Yeah,
I think that's probably what's going on.
Are you still a doctor?
Yes, I am, but currently doing a PhD, so I work part-time.
What happens when a doctor gets a PhD? Do you become doctor?
This is pathetic. We need to do better. We British people have become pathetic. In some senses, we were already, but this is doubling down on it for me. This is pathetic, Britain. What the fuck?
You do become doctor, but you don't get paid anymore. So you're still a doctor, and a doctor who's underpaid.
Well, of course. Let's hope that gets redressed soon. And finally, you've mentioned one of the standout examples of what you've experienced. Would you experience microaggressions or aggressions on a daily, weekly, monthly basis? Sorry to be simplistic, but just ballpark frequency question.
I would say on a daily basis.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and just also just quickly, like having, as much as I would like to treat all my patients equally, but I found myself having to advocate for sort of Black patients or patients that are non-white, for example, when it comes to things like pain relief.
Right.
Again, when I was working at the trauma unit, obviously if you've been stabbed, it's going to hurt. So you find that a lot of the Black patients that have been stabbed, there is no rush to give them any pain relief, and then
What? Oh no, there's no institutional racism. Fuck off. If you're gonna try and tell me there's no institutional racism in this country, you can go fuck yourself.
The same in the labour wards. We had a phone in about this, I think, earlier this year when the statistics came out that said there's just a perception that people of colour can endure more pain, which is incredible, really.
Yeah.
I was a junior nurse. I was training. It was my second placement on the medical ward,
Right.
Nightingale ward. Really hot day, so I'm doing the obs round, so taking observations. Anyway, I'm Black, and went to a patient doing these obs, and then he said to me, "Oh, I bet where you come from, it's a lovely lagoon where you can just go and relax."
Lagoon?
So I went, "Yeah, lagoon, yeah, lagoon." And I said, "Nah, don't think there's anywhere like that in Luton." Right?
Yeah.
And he was stumped, absolutely stumped. He's like, "Oh." I said, "What? Why do you assume because of my skin colour? I mean, listen to the way I speak. Do I have an accent or something?" And he couldn't answer me. And then the second incident was when I'd qualified and I was working on a male orthopaedic ward. So this particular patient was on skeletal traction. So basically he's fixed to the bed.
Yeah.
So, and again, really hot day and everything. And I said to him on 2 occasions, like we used to have the sewing rooms where you can get your uniforms altered, anything altered and stuff.
Yeah.
So I said, "Look, if you've got some relatives that can bring in some shorts, we could get the seams taken out, put Velcro down one side. That way he won't be exposing himself. And,
that's nice.
You've got the bed cradle over and, people are visiting. You don't want to see it."
No.
So anyway, it was the third time I sort of said to him, "Oh, Mr. Smith, say,
Yeah.
were you able to get the shorts?" And he just went in on me and used the M word, and that was it. I didn't.
At the end,
I
why?
lost it. When I say I lost it, but
Yeah.
I lost it in a very direct way.
Yes.
Didn't blink and said, "If you were in absolute agony and I'm doing the drug round, do not ask me to help you."
Are you allowed to do that? Are you allowed to do that?
Absolutely. I'm defending myself.
Oh, good. I'm not suggesting you shouldn't be.
And the fact is that, and I told this.
The fact that she was even put in that position in the first place goes to show that the attitude of people in this country is filthy.
Senior sister on duty, and back in those days, this would have been brushed under the carpet. Maybe if it was a different person that was in charge.
Sure.
But she actually backed me and said no and spoke to him, and I made it clear. I mean, we used to do drugs round in pairs, so whoever's working with me could deal with him and things. But I'm not here to take that. And to be honest, I was very new into my nursing career, and actually it surprised me that I did react like that. I mean, now I'm not taking any of it.
No, of course.
Fucking good on you, love.
Of course.
Don't take it. Don't take that shit.
It's just I'm not there to take it.
It's such an odd. I don't want to sound silly, but shouting abuse at someone in a football stadium is easier to understand than using that word to a nurse who is literally looking after you every day. I can't begin to get inside the mind of either of those people, but my God, it's 10 times harder to get inside the mind of the second one.
Fully agreed on that. I cannot fathom it. I actually can't.
It's just beggars belief. That's prejudice. That's bigotry. Can I ask your opinion on one thing? Because they're two very different episodes there, and some people listening. The first example, the fellow who thought that you'd have a lovely lagoon to slip into when you got home, he wasn't trying to hurt you. That is a racial prejudice that he's displaying, but it wasn't malicious. It was just ignorant, right? Or not right?
The thing is, sometimes it's not obvious.
Yes.
Sorry, and when I say not obvious, it's not words. But my God, you get that feeling. And even a friend of mine who's white, she said, "I will never know what it feels like to feel to experience racism." She said that. Her family's of mixed heritage, but she said it to me. She said she wouldn't know. But yeah, I get what you're saying. But would you have said that to a white nurse that was Irish or Scottish or
A
from
nice loch.
I
He
don't
might,
know?
he might have said, you can go home and have a swim in a nice loch.
Yes, or say she was Jamaican but she was white.
I guess it's similar to a lot of the stories that you've heard. I'm a doctor, and my experience is it's a bit like pick one, anyone. They'll all be crazy. They'll all be random. They'll all be hurtful, traumatic.
Yeah, of course.
But some of the ones that stick out most, I think, was when I was in medical school, actually. So even before I was a doctor, you start feeling these things. And we had just given a lady a cancer diagnosis of the fact that she was terminal. It was quite a somber moment, of course.
Yeah.
Had to be respectful, very quiet. And the husband of the patient, as they were just leaving after all of the news had been delivered, he walked past and was like, "Oh, you look familiar." I was like, "Oh, I'm not entirely sure where from."
Yeah.
He said, "Oh, do you live here?" I said, "No, I think it must have been someone else." He was like, chuckled and said, "I know, it was Crime Watch." And I just was like, well, I didn't register it. And then the oncology nurse who's supposed to support a lot of the, discussions.
I'm kind of glad that that my body has got me to a point where I can't go out so much, because if I can't, I know for a fact if I came across this myself in public, I'd be doing my fucking nut. I'd be going mental. I'd be starting fights and arguments in the middle of the street because people being racist cunts. This is fucking disgusting.
That go in and provide extra support to the family and the patient. She laughed along with him and said, "Oh, no, it wasn't that one. It was Rip Off Britain." And again, this is legitimately true. I had my colleague there, the consultant was there, and those two, the husband and the nurse, chuckled, and then they carried on leaving, and we all said bye. I still continued saying bye and was pleasant and replied, not entirely registering what was happening. And then after I left, my colleague, who is white, my medical student colleague who is white, went bright red, and he said, "I am so sorry. I'm so sorry. I don't know what to say. I can only apologize on his behalf." And that's when it sunk in. And I was like, my goodness, like, how the hell can you get away with saying something like that to someone who is qualifying as and that's just one. And then now I'm a registrar in the hospital, becoming quite senior, and it's day to day. Every single day I'll get elderly patients who will outright refuse, and one told me, "I'm the reason that this country is going to pot. Don't touch me. I want a white male."
I've said this before on my channel, and I'm going to say it again, and I'm going to say it again in the future. If anyone tries to come to me and tell me that I need to respect my elders no matter what, I am going to tell you to go fuck yourself.
Doctor, please, and thank you.
You personally were the reason why the country was going to this point.
Me, Dr. Sarah.
How do you... you know the question I want to ask you.
This is fucking disgusting behaviour.
Initially, I just did. I love medicine. I love helping. I love what I do. I really
You're obviously
do.
very, very good at it. You're obviously very good at it as well.
Trying to be, and I think I'm getting there. But more recently, I think it is taking a toll. I am aware that sometimes at the end of the day, I'm just like, that was a rubbish one.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 little kids, and sometimes I come home with that same energy. And now I'm like, I don't know that it's worth the impact it's going to have on them. That's where the decision making is this actually, the squeeze versus the juice, the juice versus the squeeze. But I don't know. I don't know that it entirely is anymore. And so decisions have to be made about, do I continue? Maybe I exit.
You know that the speech that Adrian James is giving today at the Royal College of Psychiatrists International Congress is addressing retention and recruitment as a consequence of racism. So you couldn't really be a better example of the problem he's describing, could you? Because it's the chipping away, isn't it? It's
exactly, that's what it is. Each little one takes a little bit more of you and from you. And in the individual one, probably it's not a big deal. You can laugh with it. Sometimes you laugh it off with your family when you come home, you'll be like, you won't believe what happened today,
Sure.
and they're like, it's another one. But the accumulation of it, then you realise actually there's a massive chasm left from all the little things that have been taken away from me, and that's actually quite damaging.
I'm sorry. And you know, of course you know, and it's glib of me to say so, that the massive majority of the people you've helped and looked after would
Sure,
be
there's no question.
hugely grateful for it.
Yeah,
The bit, you know what stuck in my craw the most, Sarah, about your stories was the oncology nurse, actually.
That was the one that got me. And it's one thing when the patients do it, or it comes from someone who maybe you can excuse it because they've got dementia, like the last caller said, or because they're unwell. But what's the excuse for colleagues? That's where it kind of becomes a bit. And from the inside,
what are they thinking the rest of the time? What are they doing the rest of the time when they're not articulating the?
And sometimes they do. That's not the only time I've had it articulated from a colleague, a professional member. So it comes from both angles, constantly, all the time, morning, night. It just, there's never a time where you're not experiencing some form of this.
Some form of prejudice and aggression. Well, I mean, what can I say? Thank you for everything that you do and have done, and I hope it gets better.
From familiar favourites and proper funny comedy.
I second that. I thank the NHS. Blessed be the NHS. As I said, the NHS is one of the things that made me proud to be British. And this is what's been done to it. We need to do better, Britain. We need to do damn sight better. I'm sorry. I don't like this shit. I don't like bullying anyway. But like, not only is it racism, but this is like being chucked at nurses and doctors, and the abuse is coming from doctors to nurses and medical students. Like, what the fuck? I sometimes wonder at the complaints chucked at the so-called woke crowd, right? I do sometimes wonder, and the reason why I wondered is because I do sometimes wonder if it's not being, if some of the topics that they bring up that people get woke about can be a bit like, it's like, is that necessary? But this is one where I don't care if you're coloured too and you're a Tory or right wing, right, and you want to be cucked and you want to be like, or if you just want to ignore it, fine. If you want to ignore all this, fine, that's up to you. But like, it just prolongs it for the rest of people just like yourself. I also like to say that it's not up to me it shouldn't be up to people like me and other YouTubers and whatnot to call out, and James O'Brien, to make this shit known. Like, surely in this country, over the last decade, we have become more awakened to societal racism. We are more against societal racism or societal marginalisation as a whole, as a principle of our society. We have become, in some senses, more inclusive, but in other senses, like, it's like, are we taking steps? It's not like the conservatives are trying to actually conserve. They're actually trying to, like, I think I might actually have to start calling these people regressives, not conservatives. Because just going from the meaning of the word conservative, yeah, people who want to conserve what is, they're not, that's not what's going on here. That actually isn't what's going on here. Like, you've got conservatism, which is trying to keep, what is. There's progressivism, which is like trying to make things better, move things forwards. But what I think we actually have here are regressives. I think that people actually, like the Labour Party and others, would actually be beneficial, would actually find it beneficial to start calling the Conservative Party the Regressive Party. Because all of their policies, they're not about holding what they've got. About, like, a lot of this shit is taking us backwards. That's regressive, not conservative, in the literal sense of the word. Whilst on some levels we are becoming more inclusive, like the right wing want to make us what I've been having arguments with people about the nature of tribalism in humanity, and I believe, truthfully, that tribalism is natural for humanity. It just is. I haven't seen any evidence as to otherwise. In one sense or another, humans always end up identifying as one kind of tribe or another when the population gets large enough. Different groups, take different interests. So, but there only seems to be this one view when it comes to tribalism, which is like people fight each other. Tribalism means people fight each other. There's another aspect to tribalism as well. Different tribes also work together. They can. I mean, that's what PR is all about. So anyone who tries to tell me that tribalism is all bad, like PR, your what you want with PR is for all the tribes to have a say. Yeah. Deal with what we've got, not try to get altruistic and unrealistic with, tribalism is just bad. Everything is just bad. But we do have to recognise that the jokes of the past, the way we used to talk about people of different skin types and people from different places, is insulting. It just is. Like, I don't care if you grew up talking like this. We don't talk like this now for a reason. The reason why the sensibilities about societies change is because they evolve. Usually, what is better for a species is what is the path that is by and large the path of evolution. What helps that animal, that species progress. For humans, the evolution of our culture, of our societies, is part of that. If we can't accept that we need to change the way we behave towards other people because the way that we did behave towards other people is outdated and is racist and is sexist, then we are heading towards a stagnant species. That's not that's not what I want to see. Not only that, but as I keep saying, evolution abhors. Evolution loves, diversity. It just does. It prefers it. So, listening to these stories of people insulting NHS workers is bad enough. Listening to people's stories of being attacked because of racist attacks is bad enough. When it's the two mixed together, like, fuck you. Fuck you, Britain. Like, absolutely fuck you. It's disgusting. I am disappointed in us. That's it. That's all I've got to say.